Well, this is a significant week as South Africa searches for a new Chief Justice. In the hot seat today has been Justice Mandisa Maya, who is the Supreme Court of Appeal President. My colleague Hasina Gori has been following proceedings. Let's cross now to her. Thanks very much, Hasina. Your take on today's proceedings?
Good afternoon, Nompu. Yes, as you said, quite an interesting morning, also quite a historic one. This is the first time we've seen a female being interviewed for this position of Chief Justice. It's the first time in the country, and Supreme Court of Appeal President Mandisa Maya is a woman of first. The first female that has been in many of the courts and different appellate courts and positions. So someone who's not new to being the first female in that position. But what she said is, and she's reiterated quite a few times throughout the day, that it's not because she's a woman that she's good, or it's not because of her gender. It's because of her work ethic, her integrity, her honesty, and basically saying that she does not need to be considered because she'd be the first female for the position, but because she'd be good as well as the most adept for the Chief Justice position. She's gone through her vision that was before tea, and then she's been grilled by the various different commissioners. We've just come out from a briefing with the JSC commissioners as well, Advocate Dalim Mpofu as well as Advocate Commissioner Doris, both updating the media on just technicalities and briefings that will take place throughout the week going forward. We know that each day has been set aside for each candidate, so that's 4 candidates. We are on day 2 so far. They've told us they'll give us a briefing every day, as well as on Saturday after the commissioners deliberate on the matter and then hand over their report to the president on who they think is the most suitable candidate for the next Chief Justice. But there's also been some concerns around some of the commissioners. We spoke with the Freedom Under the Law Judge Rikler earlier this morning, speaking on their concerns with regards to 2 of the commissioners and whether or not they should be part of this panel. We've also heard questions being posed to Advocate Dalim Mpofu just earlier on whether or not he should recuse himself when questioning Acting Chief Justice Zondo, saying that there may be him being biased due to different litigations that are being taking place alongside this processes. He said that those that feel that they may be biased should go through the proper channels. He will not speak on that matter regarding this, and that they should go through either the court or the president who appointed the JSC panel, also saying that he feels that there's no bias, and in his personal capacity he and Zondo have no issues. But I want to bring in Judges Matters, Mbekezele. Benjamin, thank you so much for speaking to us. You've heard the proceedings today. You've heard Mandisa Maya speaking today. What's your thoughts so far? Let's start there.
Well, Hasina, we as Judges Matter have been for many, many times. I think you've heard ad nauseum where we've said that the qualities that we look for in a Chief Justice is that the person must be an intellectual leader. They must have leadership experience in the judiciary and being able to be a capable manager and administrator, and also someone who's going to be able to speak confidently for the judiciary. And this morning we heard a presentation that touches on all of those qualities. Justice Maya went into very careful detail explaining the things that she's done as leader of the Supreme Court of Appeal, that over the last 5 years that she's been in the position, she's been able to radically transform that court. She's able to bring in more women as judges. She's been able to bring in more black people. The 8 senior positions in that court are black people. She's been able to maintain the performance, very high performance of that court. And all of those qualities are things that she will bring in the position of Chief Justice and as head of the Constitutional Court. One thing that we had previously spoken about, that perhaps she's been out of the court for a little while and so she might not be familiar, that concern was completely allayed. She seems to have spent some time finding out what's happening at the Constitutional Court, finding out how it works and what processes she would change to ensure that it works more efficiently and more effectively. That was a wonderful thing to see, and I think the Commission was responsive to that, even in the kind of questions that were asked.
We do know this process is a public process to allow for the public to also listen in and follow. One of the questions we see, arising, or comments we see arising, is the line of questioning that some of the commissioners put forward to the candidates. Do you feel that some of them may be too personal or might go across a line that should be drawn when asking commissioners these questions? To the post, we see it also, during the Constitutional Court judge questionings and interview sessions as well. Those are some of the complaints that come out. Do you feel there should be some topics or some questionings that should not be asked to the candidates?
Well, as a starting point, there should be a guiding set of criteria which will ensure that the kinds of questions that are asked are relevant to finding out whether someone is able to be a judge, and particularly to be able to be Chief Justice. And we are encouraged by the JSC's assurance, as you've heard at the press briefing, that they will now work on a workshop to develop this set of criteria. That's an encouraging move. But so far, I must say that I'm impressed by the questions that have been asked. They've largely been focused on the relevant issues. They've been asking about leadership, about management experience, about a judicial track record, all of the points that we thought were valuable in finding out whether someone could be Chief Justice. Perhaps in the last 30 minutes or so, they did stray a little bit, and there was a bit of a skirmish between Commissioner Mpofu and Minister Lamula about the legal sector code. But I think that is an outlier to what has been a really focused JSC interview session.
Coming into Advocate Dale Mpofu, he's one of the commissioners that there seems to be some concern with regards to whether or not he'd be biased when coming to interview certain of the candidates, and also with the conduct of Malema also coming into question. What's Judges Matters' view on the commissioners? Do you feel that they are a clear representation, that they all are the best candidates to interview for such a high-standing position?
So the Constitution designs the JSC in an interesting way, which is unique from anywhere in the world. You'll hardly ever find a body where politicians, judges and lawyers sit in one room to do a single task. You would know that they don't often agree on things. But the value that I think commissioners like Malema have brought into the JSC is that they raise issues that are concerning to the public as public representatives. They look at issues from a different perspective than judges and lawyers would. And I think so far he has particularly been asking relevant questions, some of them very difficult, but he's been asking relevant questions. The same goes for Commissioner Mpofu. But freedom under law's concerns about the public comments that Commissioner Malema has made are not something to be discounted. We do expect that even in outside of this role that they sit in the JSC, commissioners will try and sort of respect the process and try to be guarded in what they say. And so it is a genuine concern, but I don't think that it is a concern that should disqualify Commissioner Malema from sitting today.
Thank you so much. That was Judges Matters Bekezele Benjamin speaking to us here at the lunch break of the Chief Justice interviews. We are on day 2, and we know that Supreme Court President Mandisa Maya is still on that hot seat, being vetted for the Chief Justice position. Quite an interesting day, and it's looking to be also an informative afternoon. As always, you can follow the proceedings on all the SABC television and radio platforms, as well as on our digital platforms. Back to you in studio, Nampu.
Thanks very much, my colleague there, Hasina Gori.